there, I'm the Deku Tree Sprout. Because you and Saria broke the curse on the Forest Temple, I can grow and flourish. Thanks a lot. Hey, have you seen your old friends? None of them recognized you with your grown-up body, did they? It's because the Kokiri never grow up. Even after 7 years, they're still kids. You must be wondering why only you have grown up. Well, as you might have already guessed, you're not a Kokiri. You are actually a Hylian. I'm happy to reveal this secret to you. Some time ago, before the king of Hyrule unified the country, there was a fierce war in the world. One day, to escape the fires of the war, a Hylian mother and her baby boy entered this forbidden forest. The mother was gravely injured. Her only choice was to entrust the child to the Deku Tree, the guardian spirit of the forest. The Deku Tree could sense that this was a child of destiny whose fate could affect the entire world, so he took him into the forest. After the mother passed away, the baby was raised as a Kokiri, and now, finally, the day of destiny has come. You are a Hylian, and we're always bound to leave this forest. And now, you have learned your own destiny, so you know what you must do. That's right, you must save the land of Hyrule. Now, Link, break the curses on all the temples and return peace to Hyrule. It was a surprise to learn that Saria is one of the sages, wasn't it, Link? I wonder how Sheik knew. Anyway, let's off to the Temple of Time. What's up, adventurers? My name is Platinum Phoenix, and welcome back to Ocarina of Time. Last time, we awakened the Forest Sage and added her power to our own. And this time, we are going to be heading back to the Temple of Time to see what Sheik has to say. But before we do that, I actually want to run around the Kokiri Forest a little bit to show that now that we have cleared out the Forest Temple and beaten Phantom Ganon, you can see that all the monsters that were infesting it have disappeared, and the Kokiri have went back to living their normal lives as the forest-dwelling people. But now, what I want to do is actually play the Song of Time, because there is one thing I want to do here at night. And that one thing is, if we go over here to the House of the Twins, we can pull out our hookshot and look up, and there is a gold Skulltula on top of the House of the Twins that only appears here after we are an adult. But now that we have that, we can go around and talk to several of the Kokiri. I feel like I've known you for a long time, mister. And most of the Kokiri will have very basic things to say. Even, like, the Know-It-All brothers will have very basic things to say. Like, wondering if Saria will come back, wondering where Link is, wondering if they know you or thinking they know you. With one very big exception, being Mido. Oh, I see. Saria won't ever come back. But I made a promise to Saria. If Link came back, I would be sure to tell him that Saria had been waiting for him. Because Saria really liked... Hey, you! If you see him somewhere, please let him know. And also, I'm sorry for being mean to him. Tell him that too. It's really devastating because it's pretty obvious that Mido also liked Saria, but Saria liked Link and that whole triangle and everything. And it's just a really sad thing to hear or to listen to Mido experience realizing that Saria is never going to come back. It's just devastating. But I'm running over here because I just am going to take this magic bean out of the forest because it flies directly over the bridge. And we are going to be heading back to the Temple of Time. But on our way back, I actually want to talk about the differences between the Hylians, the Sheikah, and the Kokiri, because they are all very similar races. but they are all slightly different from each other. So the Hylians are the race that are closest to the goddesses and are the main humanoid race in Hyrule. In fact, they say that the long ears of the Hylians is to allow them to hear the words of the goddesses. And it also is the race that Link and Zelda are the reincarnate. It's the race that both Zelda and Link reincarnate into every time they reincarnate in these games. The Sheikah, on the other hand, are literally just Hylians with much longer lives. And their clan are known as the Shadow Folk, and they tend to be more knowledgeable about things like the state of evil in the world and magic. And then finally, there are the Kokiri, which are, in my opinion, the most interesting of the three races because they are Hylians, which most likely Hylian children, that traveled into the forest and met the Great Deku Tree, and then the Great Deku Tree gave them a stronger connection to magic and granted them eternal life, which is why after 7 years they are still children. And this also explains why, at the very beginning of the game, one of the Kokiri girls say that all of the Kokiri came from the Great Deku Tree. It's just that they were given eternal life and magic connection from the Great Deku Tree. And technically speaking, they all were born of the Great Deku Tree. The main trade-off for the Kokiri, though, where they have to stay near the Great Deku Tree, because of the magical connection they had with it, and living off of his magic, which is the main reason they aren't allowed to leave the forest, and why several of the Kokiri said that if they leave the forest, they would end up dying because they would lose the connection to the forest magic and the Great Deku Tree. But with that being said, we are back in the Temple of Time, and we just need to roll back here. You destroyed the wicked creatures that haunted the temple and awakened the sage. But there are still other sages who need your help. In order to awaken all the other sages, you must become even more powerful. You must travel over mountains, underwater, and even through time. If you want to return to your original time, return the Master Sword to the pedestal of time. By doing this, you will travel back in time 7 years. If you want to challenge the mighty foes you've defeated again, make for the bed in your childhood home. In the realm of dreams, you should be able to face them anew. The time will come when you will have to return here quickly. I will teach this to you for when the time comes. The song to return you to the Temple of Time, the Prelude of Light. You learn the Prelude of Light. As long as you hold the Ocarina of Time and the Master Sword, you hold time itself in your hands. Link, we shall meet again. Alright, I need to rant a little bit because Sheik just told us that if we put the sword back into the pedestal of time, that we would revert back to 7 years when we were a child. Which makes a lot of sense in a gameplay sense because you need a way of going back and forth between child Link and adult Link. But in a story sense, it makes almost none. And the reason I say that is because Rauru told us that when we pulled out the sword, 7 years passed in order to allow Link to mature into the hero of time. What he didn't say is that when Link touched the sword, he suddenly became 7 years older, but that 7 actual years passed. So putting the sword back in the pedestal really shouldn't do anything at all, since the sword didn't affect time. It kind of just put Link into a stasis for 7 years instead of actually affecting time. The only way that I could see this making sense in a story-wise way is that if Link grabbed the sword and suddenly became 7 years older while the rest of the world didn't change at all, which obviously didn't happen. I think it would have made more sense if they used something like the Song of Time to go back and forth between the two time periods. And I think the developers actually agree with me on this because they do that exact same thing in the very next game, Majora's Mask, where they use the Song of Time to go backwards in time 3 days. But with that being said, we're just gonna go in here. Oh, you are quite an eccentric young man. You're brave and handsome too. Your name is Link, isn't it? Don't be surprised. I can read people's minds. If I looked as good as you, I could run a different kind of business. My shop is the only ghost shop in Hyrule. Because of the great Ganondorf, it is a fine time for business like this. Oh, I can only hope the world gets even worse. The ghosts called Poes are spirits of concentrated hatred that appear in the fields and graveyard. They hate the world. Young man, if you catch a Poe, I will pay a lot of money for it. So, this is what we're going to be doing for basically the rest of the episode, because this is quite a long side quest. But I wanted to wait to do this side quest until right now, because it requires you to have two very specific things. The first is to be able to ride Epona out in Hyrule Field, and the other is that you can actually use the fairy bow, because we have to use Epona to get the Poes to appear that we are trying to fight, and we have to use the bow to actually shoot them in order to defeat them so we can collect them. So the first thing I want to go over is how to actually find the big Poes, because they are kind of difficult to find, because they only appear in 10 very specific locations. But the good thing is, once you know the locations, they become very easy to find. So the first one is actually right here, as you can see, in the crossroads in front of Castletown. All we have to do is kind of go next to this sign, and it appears. And one of the things about the Poes that is important to know is that it doesn't matter the time of day that you go and look for them. They will appear both at day and at night, and that is actually a good way to determine if it is a big Poe or not, because regular Poes will still appear in the field, but if you know where you're looking for the Poe, and and it is also day, it is a good indicator that it is actually a big Poe that you are looking for. But next up, I want to talk about how to actually make them appear, because there's two different methods depending on the game that you are playing. If you're playing the 3DS version like I am, you have to be riding Epona, and you have to be going a certain speed in order to get the Poes to appear. And on top of that, in order to make them continue appearing, you have to be going at a certain speed on Epona and keeping up with them. But in the N64 version, if you know where the Poes are going to appear, you can actually sit on their spawn location, and about every 20 seconds or so, they will appear, and it makes this quest a lot faster since you don't actually have to run around and chase them as much, and you can just sit in one spot and just shoot them over and over again, and just kind of change where the bow is targeting so you can have a better shot of actually hitting them. And that was a bad pass. You can see that the second Poe we're going after is between the Lon Lon Ranch entrance and this tree, and that I'm having a hard time getting it to spawn correctly because I'm bad at this quest, but two, it tends to want to spawn into the wall, and if it spawns into the wall, it disappears immediately. So you want to kind of angle Epona away from the wall of Lon Lon Ranch, because the pose will typically spawn directly in front of Epona. But this is the second one, and I think, well, I don't think, we are going to head back to Castle Town because we only have 2 empty bottles, which is actually another recommendation I'm going to make. I would recommend doing this with at least 2 empty bottles because it makes getting all of the pose a lot easier since there are 10 of them, and you only have to make 5 trips out here to get all 10 pose instead of doing 10 separate trips, which is a big hassle to do. But with the pose, we could just go back to the Poe collector and present the bottle. Oh, you brought a Poe today. Very interesting. This is a big Poe. I'll buy it for 50 rupees. On top of that, I'll put 100 points on your card. If you earn 1,000 points, you'll be a very happy man. So yeah, if you want a lot of money, this is actually a really good way of getting a lot of money because each of the big pose costs or gives you 50 rupees. So you could do a lot of things with the money. You could go back as a child and you could buy a bunch of bomb shoes. You can go into Kakariko Village and buy a bunch of arrows while you do this, which is actually what I recommend doing because getting arrows out in the field can be a real hassle while you're trying to get the pose. But if you don't want to buy the arrows, which, again, I recommend just going to buy the arrows since we get 50 rupees for each big Poe. I usually like to stop right here, either heading into Castle Town to sell the pose, or coming out of Castle Town to go get the pose, and slash this ground, and usually you will get a few arrows. And, of course, I did get some. I was going to say, of course, I didn't get any, but I will take the arrows. But, next up, I was talking about how to get the pose to appear. Like I said, you have to be going fast enough on Epona. I believe you have to use at least 2 carats of speed to get the Poe to appear. And the Poe will appear directly in front of Epona, which is a good hint, because it takes 2 shots in order to take out a Poe. And if you can get the first shot off while they are directly in front of Epona, it makes getting the Poe a lot easier. Because you don't have to worry about actually aiming 2 shots. Kind of like I had to here. You can see that once the Poe gets farther away from you, it becomes a lot harder to shoot because, well, 1, you're riding a horse, and 2, you can't actually target the big Poes, which is another way to tell if you are fighting a big Poe or not. When you're chasing the big Poes, by the way, if they get into a wall, like I said earlier, they will disappear. But also if they get far enough away from you, they will also despawn. And if they despawn and you have to re-chase them down, they will have full health and you will have to shoot them twice again, even if you had shot them once already. I think I just want to run over here and see if we can get some more arrows over here, because I don't want to try to get another Poe or another big Poe with only 4 arrows. That's an arrow there. Can I have any more arrows? I would like more than 9 if we can do that, please. All right, fine. 9 it is, I guess. But the next Poe is actually right over here, down by this big tree. So I'm making a big loop around here because, like I said, you want to angle Epona to where she's not running into a wall when you spawn the Poe. So I like to run down this wall and then turn right about here. And it gets the big Poe to appear. Also, another way to tell the big Poes apart from regular Poes is they look pretty different. Big Poes have pointier tops to them, while regular Poes have curved tops to them. And that would be the way I would delineate them between each other. That and that you know where the big Poes are actually going to spawn. And there's actually one more tip I want to give for fighting the pose. For this one down here specifically, because this is easily the hardest Poe to get because it's between these two walls and likes to disappear basically as soon as it appears. But the hint I want to give is actually that Poes will spawn no matter which way you run through their spawn point. So I find it easier to actually run through this way, causing it to spawn over here, giving you a lot more room to actually chase it down than trying to run through the valley itself. And doing that, like I said, I just find it a lot easier to actually get this one because I tried it before going the other way and it just spawns. You can get maybe one hit on it and then it runs into a wall almost immediately and becomes very difficult to actually try to maneuver through these two walls while trying to shoot the Poe. But next up, the sixth Poe should be right over here by this, like, outwards tree right here. I believe it should be right here. There you are. One shot and two shot. Yeah, once you actually know how to fight these big Poes, it's not really an issue anymore. So we're just gonna collect that and head back to the Poe collector with 6 down. Something else I should bring up is that you don't technically have to go collect all 10 big Poes at the same time. If you talk to the Poe collector, "Hey, young man, what's happening today? If you have a Poe, I will buy it. Your card has 600 points. Come back again." They will keep track of the amount of points and amount of big Poes you have brought them. No matter how long it actually takes you to do this quest, you can actually go out, collect like 3 or 4 big Poes, and then go do more of like the main quest, and then go back and forth if you really want to. Something else that I should probably bring up is combat on Epona is slightly different than regular combat. And that is because, as you can see, the button that you have the bow equipped to is grayed out. And that is because the bow actually takes the place of your sword while riding Epona, since Link can only use the bow as a form of weapon while riding Epona. So you have to actually press and hold down B in order to shoot the bow while on the back of Epona. And again, it's slightly more difficult because of the fact that you can't aim to fight these Poes. Also, this Poe is being real annoying and not showing up. I know you're in this woods. I'm going to make another big loop. And I'm pretty sure it's like right through here that it should appear. There it is. It took me like 7 or 8 passes to get this one to appear. People are dying and you're just not appearing for me. Come on, Big Poe. But we're going to collect this one, and the next few Big Poes are actually some of the most difficult to make appear, which I didn't think that one was going to be so difficult, but I guess I have egg on my face. But for this next one, we need to jump over this fence, basically right here-ish, and the Big Poe will appear as we jump over the fence, and you have to jump over the fence in order to actually keep up with it. So I like to angle myself kind of like with that rock, and I like to, if Epona would behave, I like to run at this rock at pretty much top speed and then jump this fence in order to make this Poe appear. And you have to... Nope, come on. Nope, it got away from me. Alright, take 2. Run at the rock, jump the fence, shoot the Big Poe, shoot the Big Poe again. Thank you. What I was saying is that one is so difficult because it requires you to jump the fence, which can disorientate you and make you not be able to pull out your bow immediately when the Big Poe appears, making it a lot harder to shoot it at the very beginning. And also, Link can't turn 180 degrees on Epona. So if the Big Poe goes to either side of you, it can become very difficult to actually turn and shoot it in order to take out that Big Poe. So that's one of the more difficult ones to actually shoot, not because it goes into a wall or anything and like despawns immediately, but just because of how you have to make it spawn. All right, and next up is number 9, which I would say is equally as annoying as number 8, but there is a trick. So if you look up any map online of where the big Poes are, it'll tell you that it will appear right here in the corner of this area. As you can see, it's right there. But that makes it really awkward because Epona can't jump over this barrier, and running around kind of just makes the big Poe appear. So you have to run up here and shoot at it just from like this corner, which I don't like doing because, as you've seen already, my aim is awful. So I have a little trick that makes this actually a lot easier. So if we run back here, we can turn and go down the side of this like angled area. And if you hug this wall while speeding up with Epona, you can actually make the big Poe appear, which makes it several times easier to actually get it, because you can still chase it down, you can get it right in front of you. It makes it so easy. But with that, that is number 9. And the last one is also kind of an annoying one, because we have to go over the bridge over by Kakariko Village. And just by that statement alone, you could probably see where I'm going with this. If it flies over the water, it becomes much harder to get because Epona can't go over the water. So what you need to do is, I tend to slow down here because the Poes only show up if you're running too quickly. So I like to be going slow and go into this corner. And then I like to turn around here, put Epona all the way back into this corner, and then we run to make this big Poe appear. And you have to shoot him very quickly so he doesn't just fly into the wall of Castletown. That actually went a lot better than it usually does. But with that being said, that is all 10 Poes collected, so let's go give them to the Poe Collector. Oh, Poe Collector, I have your last 2 Poes! Oh, you brought a Poe today. Very interesting. Yeah, he says the same thing, or I don't mean to assume your gender, but I don't know what you are. Here's the last one before I get canceled for this. You brought a Poe today. Very interesting. This is a big Poe. I'll buy it for 50 rupees. On top of that, I'll put 100 points in your card. If you earn 1,000 points, you'll be a happy man. Wait a minute now. You've earned 1,000 points? Young man, you are a generous ghost hunter. Is this what you expected me to say? Because of you, I have extra inventory of big Poes. This will be the last one I could buy. This will be the last time I could buy one of those ghosts. You're thinking about what I promised, what would happen when you earned 1,000 points? Don't worry, I don't forget. Just take this. And for going out, collecting all 10 big Poes and selling them to the Poe Collector, we get another empty bottle. In fact, this is the final empty bottle you can get in the game. And honestly, it's not a great reward because we were already doing fine with the 3 empty bottles we had. But since we have another empty bottle, I want to go do something that will get us basically the best item that we could ever put into these empty bottles. So I want to go out here and hop onto Epona. And we are just going to run over basically to where Big Poe number 3 was, over by this like river outpost. I guess this is where the moat flows from Castletown. And we just want to hop off of Epona here and swim across this little creek over to this boulder. And I actually need to pull out bombs in order to do this, because we need to blow up this rock to show that there is a hidden grotto here. And this is another fairy fountain hidden grotto. And I highly recommend just filling up all 3 of your empty bottles with fairies right here. Because if you were ever worried about being knocked out or dying, This basically makes it impossible for Link to die now. He has 3 full recoveries that will bring him back from death, plus a bottle of milk, making it so that right now we have 11 hearts. With the bottle of milk, we effectively have 21 hearts. And with the fairies, you can multiply the 11 by 3. So that is 22 times 33, giving us effectively 55 hearts to work with right now. So if you die now, I literally don't know what to tell you. I don't think I've ever died after doing this. And it's basically the best method of keeping Link alive and making him basically an immortal. But next up, I want to run over here and show that when we first got bombs and the Shard of Agony, I showed that there was a hidden grotto spot right here, but we never actually went inside of it. So I want to blow a hole in the ground and actually switch my hookshot back over for the bombs and head inside. And the reason we never went inside this hidden grotto is, 1, there is a Skulltula here. But 2, we have a gold Skulltula all the way up here on the wall that we had no way of getting at the time, since we didn't have the boomerang and we certainly didn't have the hookshot. But we just wanted to come down here and grab that gold Skulltula. Actually, how many gold Skulltulas does that make us? Oh, 44. We're actually getting quite up there in the gold Skulltula count, because the main reward that you get for gold Skulltulas, you don't need all of them, which is very nice, by the way. So we are getting very close to that reward. But with that being said, I think we're going to end this episode here. So I hope that everyone enjoyed watching this episode. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Next time, we head back up to Kakariko Village and decide where we head next on our adventure. But until then, happy adventuring!